trying to do everything you can to keep out there on the mound. But what you've got to do
Hey, my name is Maurice Gunderman. I live in Boston, and I'm from Beacon Hill.
All right. Why did you first join the service, or were you drafted? And how old were you?
I joined the service because I wanted to when I was 17.
What were you doing before you joined the service?
I was out of high school.
And what branch of the service were you in?
Both the Army and the Air Force.
How did your parents feel about joining the service?
My father thought it was great. My mother didn't think it was so good.
Where did you do your basic training?
Camp Gordon and Camp Stewart, Georgia.
Was there culture shock on your part meeting people from all over the country?
No, not really.
Do you have any interesting stories from your basic training experience?
Nothing other than it was very arduous.
What was your military occupational specialty?
I had several. I was a recon rifleman, and was also operations and intelligence NCO, an administrative NCO, and I was also a recruiter.
In what zone of combat did you see action?
Korea and Vietnam.
Line shot. Castillo over the catch. And Bonser holds again.
Okay.
Oh, it's Jimmy's turn.
Well, we can just go straight to you here.
Okay.
Do you feel that the Korean War is a forgotten war?
Yes, I do. And it still is.
Why is that?
You hear anybody make any references, they reference World War II, Vietnam, and now the war on terrorism in Iraq and Afghanistan. They never mention the Korean War.
Awesome careers are out there.
Korean War vets for stepchildren from World War II, even though I was in the World War II occupation of Germany.
Here are the tools to help you.
We hear a lot about Incheon landing. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, the Incheon?
Incheon landing?
No, I went in through Busan. Incheon came later.
I see. Was it demoralizing knowing you were facing hordes of Chinese soldiers?
They were fanatical, but the North Koreans were more fanatic than they were. They used to love to blow bugles.
And who do you think was right, MacArthur or Truman?
MacArthur.
MacArthur. Was it really that cold in Korea?
My first winter, I've done 2 tours there. My first winter, it's 23 degrees below zero, and with the wind factor from the North Siberia and North Korea, it was like 50 degrees below zero. A lot of people got frostbite. The main reason they were getting frostbitten legs and feet, hands and ears was because we didn't have the right proper clothing or equipment.
Independence is the spirit that drives America's
And can you explain what you thought you were fighting for, and if you think your efforts were worth it?
Well, we were supposedly fighting because of the United Nations, but each one of us basically were fighting to save each other.
And did you see any racism between our troops or the North Koreans and the Chinese?
I couldn't call it racism, and I'll put it this way, if you got captured, you were better off being captured by the Chinese than the North Koreans. North Koreans were very, very brutal.
Okay, now I have some questions about the Vietnam War. And during your time in Vietnam, did you know what you were fighting for? And did you believe that the United States government's mission was correct?
You get a little bit of mixed emotion on that one, because actually we were fighting for big business here in the United States. We had interests in South Vietnam.
Yeah. Were you happy to be in Vietnam?
Didn't matter, it was my job anyways.
And what about the Vietnamese people? What did you think of them?
Not too highly.
No.
Couldn't trust them.
Did the American soldiers act racially superior to them?
Won a state title in football, signed a letter of intent to go to Florida State. Fantastic football.
Did you ever think that this was just a civil war because of between the same people?
In basketball as a junior and a senior.
Yeah.
And in baseball, he tied a national record when he homered in.
What was it like to go out on seek and destroy missions, if you did any?
I used to do a lot of patrols. I was attached to the 7th Vietnamese Infantry Division as an advisor. And we used to go out with them, the Vietnamese infantry, 7th. In the area around the Delta, Rito, Ta Nan, and then up in the Cambodian Ho Qua. It wasn't necessarily a seek and destroy, it was more or less encounters with the Viet Cong. I never did see a North Vietnamese Army regular.
And did you know that the government was lying to the American public?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a novel out you should read. It's called A Bright Shining Light.
All right. And can you tell us about some of the heroism you saw?
Well, they didn't regard it as heroism because even though we were fighting, like I say, I went there as an advisor, 62. It wasn't supposed to be a war, but we were actually fighting a war.
Yeah.
They didn't declare until 64.
Were your officers as bad as they were, or as bad as they are portrayed in the movies?
All the officers I had were very good.
Very good. And did you ever have a feeling that you were winning the war, or there was a possibility that you could win the war?
Later on, I didn't think we could. The stalemate like Korea.
And what did you think of your fighting foe, either the Viet Cong or the Army of North Vietnam?
I respected the North Vietnamese Army, even though I didn't encounter them when I heard about them. But the Viet Cong were fanatics and very vicious.
And did you think you could trust the South Vietnamese people?
Not really. We had South Vietnamese civilians working with us during the day, and they were Viet Cong at night.
Now, back at home, what did you think of the hippies or college students back here?
Something's bound to happen.
I didn't have any concern about them whatsoever.
And could you tell us about any
My
of your...
wife was a hippie.
Could you tell us about any combat experiences, or did you really have any? You were just didn't see much of that.
We used to have firefights. Mostly in Korea is what I had. Yeah, I got blown out of a weapons carrier, and then I got hit in a raid, and I went to the pole.
The nuttiest thing, I was asked to pinch run.
Vietnam, we used to have small firefights with the VC. I was in Mito, the VC used to have a Sunday raid. Every Sunday they'd come and shoot up our water distillery. We were living in a building that used to be an old seminary right on the banks of the Mekong River. Most of the time we did all patrols and firefights from the Delta up to the Cambodian border.
Did any of your friends get killed in any of those, or people you knew?
In Korea, not in Vietnam.
Not in Vietnam.
I had a very good friend of mine get killed later in Vietnam, Billy Cronin. He was a lieutenant colonel, battalion commander. He had made World War II in Korea and Vietnam.
And how long, if you did get used to it, did it take you to get used to the combat?
Never.
Never? Did you ever get you excited or give you a high to be?
No. If it did, you had to be psychiatric.
Yeah. And were there a lot of drugs in Vietnam?
Not during my time, no.
Did you become disillusioned while you're in your mission, while you were in Vietnam, or when you got home, or at all?
Became disillusioned years later.
And when you got home, how were you treated?
I only ran into one incident, and I got reassigned to the Boston Army base. And there were demonstrators out front, demonstrating against the war.
Just against the war? No. Do you feel Vietnam was a mistake? That you should have gone at all?
I don't think we should have been there, period.
No. And do you have any regrets about serving in Vietnam?
No. Like I said, it was my job.
And did you receive any medals?
Yes.
From Vietnam?
Vietnam and Korea.
Do you want to describe them or talk about how you received them?
Then I was in operations and intelligence. I got decorated.
Was My Lai just one of many massacres that took place?
My Lai was, they used Lieutenant Cayley as a scapegoat. They ordered the destruction of the village. Cayley carried it out. And the higher-ups used them as a scapegoat. There were a lot of other incidents where villages were actually, like you said, searched and destroyed. No, it didn't even matter.
And
in fact, I hate to say it, but sometimes they use the body count with pigs and everything else. Ducks. It's true.
Wow. And do you think Callie was innocent or guilty?
Callie was definitely innocent. Like I just said, he was a scapegoat for the big rest.
Do you think that any of your fellow veterans of Vietnam use all the angst about the war as an excuse for not pulling their lives together?
No.
Would you have won the war in Vietnam? You say?
I doubt it very much.
No.
Not Vietnamese people. Very dedicated and very obligated. They really believed in what they were doing. Ho Chi Minh himself was fought on the side of the United States in World War II. And when he asked for help by this country, he refused it. Turned Vietnam back to, at that time, Indochina. He turned it back to the French. So Ho Chi Minh asked for aid from China, and he got it. That's why it turned into a communist nation.
Okay, well, thank you. And
I also served in the war on terrorism, too.
In the war on terrorism?
That's with the Coast Guard. 3 years, 7 months here in Boston. A year on Harbor Defense Patrol, and 2.5 years I was an examiner, Coast Guard examiner for the Merchant Marine, which comes under the auspices of Coast Guard regulation.
And do you have any kids that are in the Army, or?
My oldest son was in the 1st Marine Division in Vietnam. I was there 7 years before him. He's dead now.
All right, well, thank you.
Kylie Walker.